What happened if you met your ex at the most unexpected place, an elevator? Jaeon Jungkook, 22 years old, broke and unemployed who's currently living at his Hobie Hung's flat for free. He sold his only home to cover up his late father's debts, which was he hardly knew about it, was bound to meet his ex-boyfriend Kim Taehyung. A wealthy young man, in his 24 he became the director of his own fast-growing company, that he had built after the messy breakup with his only love, Jaeon Jungkook. What happened if the two souls collided once again after being apart in 5 years at the very elevator? Let's find out.
But I still want you.
It was Sunday morning, the weather was warm and the sky was clear. It's a good day for laundry. So Jungkook was standing alone carrying a basket full of laundry in the middle of an elevator that moved down to the ground floor where the laundry room was. He chewed his bottom lip gently. Had he not wearing a black mask that covered half of his face, you would see a mole under his bottom lip. He looked up at the glaring numbers of each floor. It read 18 as he heard a ping sound. The door slowly opened, revealing a person entered the elevator. And Jungkook almost dropped the laundry basket down as he recognized who the person was. Kim Taehyung. A name slipped easily in between his parting lips. He whispered it, feeling nostalgic as it was the first time after in a while he said that name again. They both froze for a few seconds as their gazes met. Jungkook was the one who broke it first. He couldn't stare for a long time at those sharp amber tiger-like eyes that had haunted his dreams for the past years. He unconsciously moved backwards until his back hit the cold surface behind him, attempting to maintain their distance in that corner room. He saw Taehyung walk further inside the elevator, turning his back from him and punched the B1 button to the parking lot. And they both fell into an awful silence. Jungkook was contemplating, should he greet him, should he not? He's hoping someone would come joining them and break the silence that felt so unbearable. He could even hear his own heart beating loudly in his ears. And why's this elevator moved so slowly? He cursed mentally. He lifted up his gaze up only to meet with Taehyung's eyes that stared back at him through that transparent surface where they could see their reflections. He suddenly felt conscious at how he was wearing, compared to Taehyung, who looked so damn good and hot as he remembered, if not more. While he looked like a lost puppy with his messy hair, a very baggy shirt, not to mention his mismatching socks, a bright green and purple, well, that's the only available in his wardrobe. He couldn't be more embarrassed to be caught like this, meeting his ex in an elevator from all of places. He wished the ground would open up and swallow him whole. The only thing he was grateful for was his mask that hid his blushes from those sharp eyes. His blush grew deeper when he saw him smirking at him, annoyed at how it still affected him even after these long years. "What's with that smirk, mister?" Jungkook blurted out before he realized it. He bit his tongue inside his mouth to stop himself from saying any other words. A sheer funny feeling roamed inside his chest as he heard Taehyung's chuckle. "You never changed, bae." Still that hot-tempered Jungkook, huh? His smirk turned to soft laughter. And Jungkook felt a heat run up from his neck to his already reddened cheeks upon hearing that deep husky voice greeted his longing ears. Gosh, why it's affecting him like this, just like before. Had he moved on? Or hadn't he? Jungkook was having crazy conversations in his head. On the other hand, Taehyung was taking his time in savoring him as he leaned his head back and crossed his hands together on his chest. One of the corner of his lips tugged up slightly as he couldn't erase his own smirk away. "You looked good," he blurted out, breaking the silence in that small room. "So do you," Jungkook answered awkwardly, and they fell into silence again. Taehyung sighed. He unattached himself from the wall behind, gone all the amusement as he recalled how this person beside him was the same person who had broken him mercilessly. "Why did you leave?" he asked again, the same question that he had for the past years that yet to be answered. Jungkook gripped the basket tighter as he almost dropped it for the second time. He chose not to answer that. "Answer me, Jungkook." Taehyung felt irritated all of a sudden, as his brain displayed the morning when he woke up at an empty bed in his room, the coldness and loneliness that he had been endured ever since then. And now, he met that person again, who he missed yet he hated the most. What an irony, Taehyung chuckled dryly. Taehyung swept his bangs up with his fingers as it fell on his eyes, annoyed when he saw Jungkook was still silent, ducking his head down even more. I thought, you would be happy, if I left. He heard him answering quietly, that made all the patience he had vanished into thin air. In a very swift move he grabbed Jungkook's arm and pulled him against his chest. The laundry basket dropped instantly from the impact and the clothes scattered on the ground. He could also hear Jungkook gasped against his chest in surprise. The anger he felt a while ago disappeared in a half-second the moment he had him in his embrace once again, being indulged in his sweet flowery scent that he'd longed for the past years. Unconsciously he tightened his hold at those small waists that felt so right in his hold. He pulled him closer and closer, leaving no space, not even an inch, as he nestled his chin on the crook of Jungkook's neck. He felt him tensed under his touch as he nuzzled his sensitive skin with his lips, knowing the exact spot that would make his legs weak. Don't move, let me just hold you. Taehyung mumbled in between his kisses as he felt Jungkook was struggling to pull himself away from him. How could he let go of him? Not now, not when he had found him, not when he had tested that soft skin and sweet scent again. Taehyung let go. What are you doing? It's embarrassing. Jungkook tried all his might to free himself away from that temptation, knowing there's a camera glaring above their heads. He bit his lips behind the mask to stop himself from gasping as Taehyung bit the sensitive spots on his neck. Just like before, the action made his legs feel like jelly. Hadn't Taehyung held him so tightly, he's sure he would fall flat on his butt. What's he thinking? Is he losing his mind? Taehyung stopped for a moment. Being held by your lover is hardly called embarrassing, love. Do you want to know what it's called? Embarrassments? Huh, come with me and I will jog down your memory to know what I felt since you left. He whispered darkly in his ear with his husky voice, purposely darting his tongue slightly in that soft earlobe. Jungkook shuddered. He couldn't take it. This is too much. I'm no longer your low. He couldn't finish his sentence as a scream escaped his mouth when he felt Taehyung bit his neck once again, harder this time, leaving some marks for sure. In that moment he heard a ping sound as they arrived at the ground floor and the door slid open. And he wished he could make himself invisible from the newcomer's eyes, as he was being caught at the most inappropriate moments. What the? Hobie's jaw dropped upon seeing a scene inside that elevator. There he saw Jungkook was being pressed against a stranger's chest, in the corner of that small room with ground full of laundry. What on earth's going on? Hobie questioned himself mentally. Jungkook snapped out immediately he freed himself from that tight embrace. He whirled around to face his Hobie Hung, who stood by the gap. Hung, it's not what you think, he said. Panic could be seen from his dazed doe eyes. Hobie stepped inside the elevator and held the open button a bit longer, just in case they need to flee in any minute, as he sensed a very strong aura came from that sharp-eyed man. It is what you thought. Taehyung didn't bother to hide his annoyance at the newcomer who had disturbed them. He was about to pull Jungkook back to his embrace when Jungkook slapped his hand away. Don't mess with me, Kim Taehyung. Jungkook glared hard at him, his eyes burnt with tears of anger that he tried to hold back. He was more angry at himself for being so weak in front of Taehyung. He bent down and collected his laundry back into the basket. So, you both knew each other. I thought you were being molested by that stranger. You okay? Hobie examined Jungkook's figure quietly. He saw 2 buttons of his shirt were off, and aside from the pink mark on his left neck, he looked fine. Jungkook just nodded as he stood up, gathering the basket in his arms. He wiped his tears harshly with the back of his hand before he dashed out of the open door without looking back, leaving them behind. Unaware how that amber eyes followed his every moves while licking his lips wet. Hobie cleared his throat. Well, I believe you owe me an explanation, mister. Kim Taehyung, he's my brother you know. Hobie punched the close button as Jungkook was no longer within their gazes. He stood facing him, crossing his hands together on his chest. He refused to be threatened by that strong intimidating aura that stranger possessed. Taehyung chuckled, amused. Care for a drink then, brother-in-law? Taehyung said deliberately as he threw him a smirk. Hobie snorted, but then he laughed. You freak. He cursed as he nodded. He's curious in this stranger for some reasons. He was eager to know what he was to Jungkook. Well, at least he had to make sure this man's safe enough to get close to his Jungkook. Well, it's gonna be interesting, and Taehyung was glad that he came to this place. He dropped by his friend who lives in this flat earlier, and meeting with Jungkook in this mere elevator was beyond his imagination. I found you love, and like hell I would let you go, never again. Finn. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.